Hello my friends, I hope all you are fine. This is Narrative Stories channel. Let's start this story. The night was dark, and the road ahead seemed endless, illuminated only by the dim glow of the headlights. The man behind the wheel drove hurriedly, his mind a whirlpool of emotions. It was supposed to be a regular evening, he began, his voice cracking with a mix of disbelief and anguish. I had just finished a long day at work and was looking forward to a quiet night at home. But the tranquility he had anticipated was shattered by an unforeseen nightmare. The image of his wife in their bed with another man haunted him, replaying in his mind like a torturous loop. As he navigated the deserted road, the realization of his predicament sank in deeper. He was no longer just a husband, he was now a fugitive, running from the law and the life he once knew. The flashback to earlier that evening was vivid. He had parked his car in the driveway, the familiar creak of the front door welcoming him home. He called out for his wife, expecting her cheerful greeting. Instead, he was met with an eerie silence that hung heavy in the air. Every step he took echoed through the empty house, amplifying his growing unease. The living room, usually filled with warmth and light, felt cold and foreboding. He checked the kitchen, the study, and finally, with a sinking feeling, he made his way upstairs. The silence was deafening, and each creak of the floorboards seemed to mock his anticipation. His heart pounded as he approached the bedroom, the place that had always been their sanctuary. Little did he know, the discovery waiting behind that door would forever change his life. His hand trembled as he reached for the doorknob, a sense of dread washing over him. The door creaked open, and there, in the dim light of the room, lay the heart-wrenching scene. His wife was in bed, wrapped in the embrace of another man. The shock hit him like a physical blow, rendering him speechless. The room seemed to spin around him as he struggled to process the betrayal. His mind raced, a storm of emotions crashing through him: disbelief, hurt, and an all-consuming rage. The bed, once a symbol of their dreams and promises, now stood as a testament to their shattered trust. He felt his world crumbling, the foundation of his life cracking under the weight of her infidelity. The betrayal was raw and visceral, leaving him gasping for breath as he tried to comprehend the magnitude of what he had just witnessed. The silence was broken by his strangled cry of anguish, startling both his wife and her lover. The room exploded into a cacophony of accusations and denials. His wife tried to explain, her voice desperate and pleading, but he was beyond reason. The lover, half-dressed and caught off guard, attempted to defuse the situation, but his presence only fueled the husband's fury. The argument escalated, each word laced with pain and anger. In a moment of uncontrolled rage, he lunged at the other man, a blur of fists and shouts. The physical altercation was brief but intense, ending with the lover sprawled on the floor, clutching his side in pain. The husband's breath came in ragged gasps as he looked at what he had done. It was an accident, a tragic result of a nightmarish confrontation. The realization of his actions began to dawn on him, mingling with the horror of the betrayal. His wife's screams pierced the air, jolting him back to the present. "I'm calling the police," she shrieked, her voice a mix of fear and rage. Panic surged through him, overriding any sense of rational thought. He couldn't stay, he had to get out. The instinct to flee took over, and he bolted from the room, the sound of her frantic 911 call echoing in his ears. He grabbed his car keys from the kitchen counter and stumbled out the front door. The cool night air hit him like a slap, but he barely registered it as he jumped into his car. The engine roared to life, and he sped away from the house, tires screeching on the pavement. As he drove into the night, his mind was a chaotic swirl of fear and confusion. He couldn't believe how quickly his life had unraveled. Every mile he put between himself and the house felt like a desperate attempt to escape not just the police, but the horrifying reality of his shattered world. As he drove, the road ahead seemed endless, a dark tunnel with no visible end. The rhythmic hum of the engine did little to calm his racing thoughts, Flashbacks of happier times with his wife played like a cruel montage in his mind. Their wedding day, filled with laughter and vows of forever. The countless nights spent talking about dreams and plans for the future. The tender moments of shared silence that now felt like lies. Each memory was a knife, twisting in the wound of betrayal. The stark contrast between those cherished moments and the chaos of the present was almost too much to bear. He felt hunted, not just by the police, but by the ghosts of his past. Happiness, the love and trust he had once held dear, now seemed like distant illusions, replaced by a nightmare he couldn't escape. The weight of his turmoil pressed down on him, making each mile feel like a journey deeper into despair. His thoughts were a jumbled mess as he sped down the empty road. The fear of being caught gnawed at him, but so did the fear of what would happen if he stopped running. He replayed the night's events over and over, searching for a moment where he could have done something different, something that might have prevented this catastrophe. He thought about turning himself in, facing the consequences, and proving his innocence. But the image of his wife's betrayal and the chaos that followed made him hesitate. He felt like a fugitive, not just from the law, but from his own life. The uncertainty of his next move loomed large, the tension growing with each passing minute. The darkness outside seemed to mirror the turmoil within him, a void of endless possibilities, none of them good. He was trapped in a nightmare with no clear way out. His emotions, a volatile mix of fear, anger, and profound sadness. The road stretched on, but he knew he couldn't drive forever. He needed a plan, a moment to think clearly. He pulled over to the side of the road, the car's engine idling as he sat in silence. The weight of his situation pressed down on him, and he felt the need for guidance, for someone to help him make sense of the chaos. He reached for his phone, hesitating before dialing a number. The call connected, and he heard a familiar voice on the other end. "I need help," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. As he explained his predicament, the sound of sirens grew louder in the distance, a stark reminder of the urgency of his situation. The conversation was brief, but filled with a glimmer of hope. He had a decision to make, one that would define the rest of his life. The approaching sirens grew louder, a symbol of the closing net. The screen faded to black as the tension reached its peak, leaving his fate hanging in the balance. The sound of sirens lingered in the darkness, a haunting reminder of the night's events. "What would you do if you were in my shoes?" he asked, his voice filled with a mix of desperation and defiance. Sometimes, life throws you into situations where there are no easy answers. This is my story, and it's far from over. The screen remained black, the tension palpable. He encouraged viewers to leave their thoughts and suggestions in the comments, to share what they would do in such a dire situation. The invitation to subscribe for the next part of his story was both a plea and a promise. This was only the beginning, and he needed all the support he could get. The night was dark, but with each comment and each subscription, he hoped to find a glimmer of light, a path forward in a world turned upside down. Thank you for being a part of Narrative Stories. Your support and engagement mean the world to us. We are committed to bringing you the best in storytelling. What kinds of stories would you like to see next? Share your thoughts in the comments below.